And hello everyone, my name is Paul Tranny, and yeah, we're going to dive into today's Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge, as you can see. So feel free to say hello in chat. Love to hear from you, see who's online, all that good stuff. And if you've been following me this week, we've been tackling just basically a bunch of art lessons. So today we're going to talk about sort of the elements of design or the elements of art, and we're going to be dealing with one of those elements, which is textures. And we're going to specifically work with kind of a retro sci-fi theme. I just thought it'd be kind of fun because that's how I learned off of, like, I don't know, off of actually this is actually a comic book, but this is Masters of the Universe. So I got this with He-Man when I was a kid, and I would draw out of it, and I thought it was so cool. So anyways, very retro sci-fi-y, and I thought it would be fun. So it's good to have you here. Feel free to say hello in chat and all that good stuff. Good evening, Uma Korn, Anthony King, Ruben, Jack Watson in the house, Steve, what's up, buddy? Wade, good to see you, man. Awesome. Oh, okay, so yeah, this next 30 minutes is dedicated to Emily. It's her first time ever early to class. Oh, okay, that's funny. Maybe not the first time to this class, but welcome. Is this going to be a... okay, is this going to be a normal stream? Yeah, it'll be, you know, it'll be pretty normal if you're like into learning about stuff. So here, I'm already sharing my screen as it turns out. You can see this artwork. Where did this artwork come from, by the way? Let's just jump over here to behance.net/challenge/Illustrator. So that's where you're going to get all this lovely stuff as I paste in that link. So you can see right down here, we did graphic design basic, mixing color, typography, retro textures. So that's where we're at right now. We'll use the appearance panel, and we will, which is awesome. And then we're also going to be using effects. Okay, so what you'll do in here is you'll also download that file, right? That gives you this lovely image right here. All right, hello everyone. Good to have you here. In this file, I just included a few notes off to the side. Okay, we can see we're going to learn about the elements of art or the elements of design. It's all about textures. So line, we already kind of talked about line and shape on day one. Space is as much of an element as objects are or as shapes are. We're going to get more into like value and stuff too, but we kind of did color and value when we dealt with color, and then we did line, shape, and space when we dealt with our logo challenge. But today is all about texture, right? Rough, smooth, soft, hard. And again, I actually kind of want to work with the appearance panel, and that's the first thing I want to do. So this is pretty straightforward. You can see everything's made up of basic shapes. So if I decide I want to put another moon over here, I can go ahead and draw that out. I can hit the I key, right? Hit that I key for eyedropper, and I can sample, say, that gradient or this gradient, right? Make another star, make another something or other, right? Make whatever I want. Right in here. So you can see me do that. I'm actually going to make this, actually this is what I want to do. I want to make a more dynamic planet out here. So there's my sun that I just added, right? That's pretty intense. Just gotta shrink that down. But right in here, I kind of want to add more to this, this guy right here. Okay. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to give this maybe a radial gradient. Seems like a good idea. Sorry, let me pick a color in here and change this. And by the way, I'm working in this gradient panel. Okay, so I'm clicking on these color stops, right? This color stop is set to 0%. Let's change it to 100%. And let's just say I want to make this look like more like a moon, for instance, or some sort of planet. I can increase that highlight area, right? I can move that highlight area using the gradient tool, right? We can come in here, and you always want to grab the line and move it like so. Okay, and we can see those two color stops. These two color stops correlate with these two color stops, right? And then we have these additional controls for distorting. If I grab this side, I can make it larger just like so. So we could have that nice highlight, as you can see. All right, so everybody having a good day? Let me know if you have any questions. Yo, this is your first session for this. Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, this is going to be great. I'm happy you're here. This is what we do. Like, we'll have this, and sometimes people will add maybe another color stop right in here, and then they'll change that to something lighter, right? We could do that. That actually looks pretty good, right? But this is what I want to show you that you can do is you can actually layer multiple gradients one on top of the next. Okay, so we've added this gradient. Let's go to the appearance panel, which is honestly, I consider it probably the most valuable panel in Illustrator. Because right in here, guess what this will let me do? This will actually let me add, say, another fill in here. So let's just have this object selected. We can see the current fill, but I can add another one right in here. So we'll go down here, add new stroke, add new fill, boom, there it is. So this second fill can just be like something else, right? So that's what I'll do. Give me a second to do this. Ba-ba, ba-ba. Let's, you know, again, making this darker, maybe changing this to overlay, right? So that's what I did. I just added this new fill on top of the current fill, and it doesn't change it, right? But anytime you find yourself, if you find yourself duplicating objects, and this second one has, you know, the fill you want on it, this is what I see people doing, is they'll have this extra element, and that'll put it on top of the exact same thing. Like, don't do that. Just use the appearance panel and layer those strokes and fills on top of one on top of the next, okay? Okay, so here we go again. Like, let's just say let's just give this a title, okay? So we did the book titles yesterday, which was awesome. Big shout out to everybody who's been submitting in the challenge, by the way. It's been the Bride Mirror, right? Look at that. Julie, great job, right? So this was the project yesterday when we were dealing with type. You know, so cool. Everybody, you could tell how advanced people are. This is so good. Since we're dealing with type, since we're dealing with color, since we're dealing with texture now, how do we layer all those on one on top of the next? Let's throw some text in here really fast. I'm just going to drive home my point. Okay, so making up a title. Go over here, and this is what I want to do. Let's just say I want this to be white, and it's going to have a stroke color. Give me 1 second, right? And it's going to be script. So again, I'm just throwing something in here really fast. Here we go. Dunes of Avalon, right? So again, work with me. It's not a great title. It's kind of cheesy, right? The font's not that great. But this is what happens. Like, how many people have been through this situation? It's like you want these letters to be connected. You want to get rid of this overlap, especially if you're dealing with cursive text. Well, that too is where the appearance panel will come into play. So let's open up that appearance panel. Here it is. Zip. Hey, appearance panel, what's up? Hey, guess what? Let's just go ahead and add a new fill. This new fill will be white. Boom. Oh, and thank you so much. Now that is gone. Oops, sorry. Now that is gone, right? We still have that stroke. We can increase that stroke size if we want to, right? But again, just be mindful of how these are layered one on top of the next. If I put the stroke on the top of it, we're going to see that overlap, but I put it underneath, we're good to go like that. And this is still editable. So this is pretty important stuff. Love the appearance panel. We could have more fun with it. What if we wanted to give this some texture? We'll check this out. We will go to patterns. Actually, I don't want to go to pattern options. I want to go to let's open this up. All my different swatches. Actually, I wanted my swatches in here. I didn't mean to say swatches, but swatches actually has patterns in it. So here's your swatches panel. Let's pull this out, trying to simplify my screen as much as possible. But here, if you downloaded that file, you have all these additional swatches, right? That have these lovely patterns and textures on them. So now what I can do is I can go over here. I could add a new fill, and this new fill, and I really should fill this with a color, but let's add this new fill, and let's go ahead and give it some dots, for instance, right? So now we've filled that in, we've given it some texture, right? And we can try all these different sort of properties in here as I make it look like this text has a disease, Okay, you guys get the idea. Okay. Yes, exactly, Melanie. Instead of converting to outlines, don't convert to outlines if you don't have to, right? Because this just makes it so much more flexible. Okay, so based on what we know now, we can really have some fun with it. Let's move this over. Hey, appearance panel, get over there. Pop, right? And this is like, this is not great text. That was just an example. Let's move that over. Right, we have our crazy moon, right? That's all one shape that we can probably make smaller, whatever. Right, that's pretty intense as well. But we can start to do that with some of these other elements. Let's actually come in here. Let's get this squared away. Squared away. There we are. Very nice. Selecting this background. Okay, we'll go down here. We'll add another fill. We will add for that fill, again, just a dotted pattern, for instance. With that dotted pattern done, we can go to the opacity, go back to, say, overlay, for instance. And now we have all these cool dots for the background there. Okay. So that's what I could do with a lot of this. I can go in and, again, just add that fill. Make sure that fill has whatever you need. Bam. Where did these little dots come from, by the way? That's your next question. Again, changing. By the way, just so you know, I'm clicking on this opacity underline. I know it's the first week and I feel like this is pretty complex, but instead of just changing the opacity, you're like, oh, I'm just going to take the opacity of those dots down. I go in and I change this to the blend mode to something else that's more interesting. And it's going to be overlay or soft light. Okay, so that's what I'm doing with that object. Right? It's already looking more interesting as I start to do that with a number of these elements. All with varying dots just to make it fun. Why not? All right, you get the idea. Okay. Children of Dune. Yeah, it definitely needs a title. Definitely needs a title. Okay, so you ready for this? This pattern actually needs to be scaled down. I know we're talking about patterns already, but patterns, textures, right, kind of like one and the same, even as I pick some of these other ones. Some of these other ones actually might be better, by the way. I think some of these others look better, right? But if you ever pick a pattern and you want to scale it down, look at how big it is. Let's do this. The scale tool, and you ready for this? These are like, I'm even getting into pro tips. This is awesome. So right over here, I'm going to scale it down. This is just a cool shortcut. I go to the scale tool, right? Typically the scale tool, if you scale that shape down, it's going to scale it down, right? That's what the scale tool does. It does what it's supposed to. Here's the pro tip. You ready for this, Melanie? Holding down the, not the tab, the wonderful tilde key, the little squiggly line. Hold down that little squiggly line, hold that down, drag it in. You could hold down the shift key to constrain it. And the tilde key will allow you to scale not the shape, but the pattern. So that's what I just did, scale down that pattern, right? Is that not cool? Or what? That's fun. All right, so we can have fun with this. We can add some textures. We can go in here. We can change the color of this. I can probably add some textures right over here, by the way. Just give me a second. A new fill. A new pattern of sorts. Maybe this one's a little bit more tight. Isn't that awesome? Right? And then if I want to make this other one match, I go down here. I hit I for eyedropper. And then let's just pick this one. Bam. There it is. Okay, done. Right? Make this scene your own. Come up, make your own lovely sci-fi fantasy world with all these cool textures, because in that file you have all of these textures. By the way, these textures all came from Illustrator to begin with, right? So right in here, in the Swatches panel, we have this little library icon. Click right here, and now you can see basic, which is, again, a lot of these graphic dots is what I've been using. Graphic lines, textures, there's more decorative ones that I don't think are as good. as like the basic graphic dots. So look, that's where they are. That's where they come from. So they're already baked into Illustrator and you could use those right away. So already this scene is turning into something pretty fun. All right. When I scale down patterns, I use object, transform, scale. Object. Oh, I should probably have something selected. Hey, if that works for you, great. Awesome. Oh, there it is, up at the top. Object, transform, scale. Okay, cool. This is interesting. I'm glad you pointed this out. You can go to Object, Transform, and then go to Scale to scale it down. That is also in your Scale tool. So if we just double click on our Scale tool, that's going to bring up that same dialog. But right in here, this is where you can kind of turn off everything and just scale down the pattern, right? So maybe don't scale down that stuff, but scale this down to 30, for instance, right? And again, we're previewing it. We can see how it makes it much tighter. Actually, that's too small. Let's bring it back up to 50, right? 120. There we go. You guys get the idea. Cool. All right, let's move on. Let's really make this our own because we don't want to see a bunch of beige scenes. You're like, oh, my sci-fi world is has to be so much more unique. Select everything. I showed this yesterday under Edit, Colors, Recolor, Artwork. Come in here, click Edit, right? And usually I'll lock this down, but I can go ahead and rotate this and make something more interesting. Or maybe just something more for your liking, right? I'm actually really into the pinks, right? I do something like this. Oh yeah, looks so cool, right? We can go get inspiration from online, by the way. Look at these awesome sci-fi covers. Just do a quick search and you're like, oh, look at this. Just cool stuff. This is where the inspiration came from for this, right? It didn't get too crazy, but look at all these crazy book covers. They're amazing, right? Isn't that awesome? So get some inspiration from elsewhere. You can modify this any way you want to modify it, right? Such as taking this up. This is in the background, so guess what? I can put that right down there, and this is something new and unique. Going to my transform tool, holding down the tilde key, scaling it down, holding down the shift key, and I've scaled down that pattern. You get the idea. There's this little guy walking. You could work with him as well. All right, so we can select this whole scene, right? We change the color. This is another thing we can do. You ready for this? Let me make sure I'm answering all questions. Okay, you usually go to scale options, Daryl. Awesome. Recolor artwork is awesome as well. We can go into effect. There's a couple different ones down here. I would just go down here to the effect gallery, right? So go into the effect gallery under Photoshop. We could see our graphics that I have, this one that I have selected, right? And then we could start to play with some of these options. And I usually open up all of these. You want to pick something like grain. Let's turn that on. It already has the dots. That's the problem. It already has that texture, but here's film grain. So an earlier version of this, maybe I wouldn't apply the swatches with the patterns, but maybe I'd want to go that route. So let's do this. I'm going to save this out. I still have 7 minutes. That is great. And guess what, everybody? I just want to brag about how much sleep I got, because that's what you do as an adult. You just brag about sleep is such a big part of your life. It's like pretty much like half. I spent like almost every day sleeping. It's just crazy. But I got like 9 hours sleep last night, and I'm just like, I feel like $1,000,000. I feel like a superhero. Colors are vibrant. The future is bright. You know, the graphics are going to be lovely. Let's take all of these. Let's just group them together. Command G. Let's go into the effect gallery. So I rolled back to the original version, by the way. I took all these graphics. I did a Command G. I grouped them together. Right now, I'm going to treat this all as one element. Now I can go into effect gallery. I can see our lovely graphics here. And okay, now I can see what, say, colored pencil looks like, or film grain as I select that. We can try all of these different possibilities for textures. right? What does this do? This is cool. This makes it look more like print, right? It's actually this rough pastels, right? Just gives it that worn retro look, which I think is awesome, right? Super cool what it does. Love what it's doing there. It's actually kind of adds a little bit of motion to it, right? So go in here, try out some different textures. Here's, of course, the grain. You could keep in mind, this is another thing you can do. You can add your grain. You're like, I want more grain. You're like, I can never have too much grain. Come down here and can I or can I not? Okay, what am I missing here? Okay, I lied. I was expecting to be able to hit the little plus sign and add another effect. And I don't know why that's not available. So I apologize for that. But there that is. Click OK. Right, I could always add that as a second effect, right? But we'll click OK. What happens to that once I add it? We'll go to the Properties panel. Keep in mind it's going to be right here. In your Properties panel, it says, hey, your fill, your stroke, here's your rough pastels. So if you ever want to add it, it's right. You can go ahead and click on it right there. We can also go into our Appearance panel, right? And sure enough, for that group, here's the rough pastels. And guess what? Just like we layered gradients, one on top of the next, we can layer additional effects in there too. So, hey, Michelle, by the way, no shame. Like, honestly, don't look at the clock. Like, I usually perform quite well on just 6 hours of sleep. And I've resigned to the fact to not beat myself up over not having 8 hours. Like, some people are professional sleepers. I want to know who the professional sleepers are out there, just so I can be, like, so jealous of you. Any professional sleepers, let me know, because I'm like, oh, you're so good. But I'm just resigned to the fact that I usually get 6, and I'm at 6.5, and I'm okay with it. Right? I'm not going to beat myself up. But look at this texture. We're just like kind of making it look a little bit more muddy. But all I'm showing you is how you can add these different layers one on top of the next. Here's something that we could do kind of neat as well. We could throw this graphic pen on top. Let's just try this. Click OK. Definitely gives it a graphic look, right? And there it is. Oh, click back. Let me get out of here. Wait for it. I could actually layer those two effects one on top of the next. So this is a case where like you would actually have to duplicate the graphics, and then you can play with layer blend modes that way. Here's the last tip I'm going to leave you with. This is super important. Oh, Umacorn, 4 hours straight is max for you. Right? Can you show how to edit patterns? Yeah, I can actually. Let's go to my swatches. Did I close my swatches? There they are, right in here. Here's my pattern. Just double click on it. And now I'm inside of this pattern. I can say, hey, this pattern's pretty cool, but it'd be cool if we just threw a little red one in there. Ooh, what? It's so trippy. It's gonna be awesome, right? Save it, click done, close it, right? And now you have that awesome pattern that was just edited with that red dot. What a great idea, by the way. So good thought. I'm totally into it. Last thing I was going to show is like, yeah, you can go ahead and have these multiple effects. Rough pastels, graphic pen, right? Applied to everything. That might slow things down. So this is what I would actually suggest, is what you can do is you go over here, add a layer on top of everything else. Use your lovely rectangle tool. Right? Throw that down. By the way, there's that pattern that we just created. There it is. It's a little weird. Right? Let's just change that to something else, just this like brown. Throw that on top. And now we can go into and add an effect just to that overlay on top. So we can add this graininess. Click OK. Specifically, I think that's the charcoal pen. And then from there, we can go ahead and change the blend mode. So right over here, opacity, overlay. There we go, just like that. There we are. So again, this new layer I added that effect to. And then I changed the opacity, or excuse me, going to opacity, changed the blend mode to something like overlay or soft light. So that's nice because it takes a lot of processing to process these effects, and it might slow things down. So just go ahead and you can always turn that on or off, and this could be like the final move that you make, which is what I do in this case. Do something like that, export it out for screens, like so. Fantastic. Get it out there. There it is. All right, looks good. Just some crazy fun textures. I encourage you to, again, use Recolor artwork to play with it a little bit more. Hurry, Paul. You better hurry. There's no time. There's never enough time. Export artboard. Done. We did it. And upload that to Discord as well. But I'm just thankful for all of you. Brenda, I like ye. I like that you like it. So thank you so much. Ooh, Mona, look at that. This is beautiful. Again, artwork, it doesn't have to be complex to be gorgeous. Look at that. Gorgeous. All we're doing is we're playing with themes. We're learning. We're playing with textures. There you are. Boom. In Illustrator, because I don't want people thinking Illustrator can just do flat artwork, and I don't want people thinking that this is what Illustrator does, is just this flat stuff. It's so clean and so gorgeous. I love it so much, but we can make Illustrator do whatever we want, which is super fun. Marsha, you just like right here. Marsha, you got me. You got me, Marsha. I appreciate the love. I appreciate you guys. This is the one big thing is like, I get it, Marsha. The cool thing about Illustrator is we could change it at any point in time. Everything's a vector and math. It's easy. Thanks so much for watching. I gotta go, everybody. Bye.